Hey guys, welcome to this Feedonomics and Google co-sponsored webinar about growing your brand with Google Manufacturer Center. Here we've got Anand and myself, Brian Roizen, the co-founder and chief architect of Feedonomics. Anand is the strategic partner development manager of Google Shopping, and we're of course going to be talking about how to expand your reach today in Manufacturer Center. And so with that, Anand, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and let's get started.
Great, thanks, Brian. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time. I can totally understand it's a hectic time for everyone, so we really appreciate it. As Brian mentioned, I work on strategic partnerships within Google Shopping, and I've been at Google for about 7.5 years. And for the last 2.5 or 3 years now, I've been focusing on how to better help brand manufacturers highlight their brands to consumers within Google Shopping. And so I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about Manufacturer Center, the opportunities that it opens up, and basically how you can get started. From an agenda standpoint, I'll note that the agenda maybe looks a little scary and long, but I promise you it's not. It should go fairly quickly. But I quickly want to level set on what Google Shopping is and why product data is important. Tell you a little bit more about Manufacturer Center and the opportunities that it opens up, and then touch a little bit more on how you can get started. We'll certainly have time at the end for Q&A, so please feel free to submit your questions in the meantime or save them for the end. So just to quickly level set, Google Shopping is our commercial-based experience where we provide an opportunity for retailers to sell directly to consumers on Google, primarily through image-based ads that you see on google.com, as well as google.com/shopping. In the US, it also encompasses Google Express, which is primarily our fulfillment platform where consumers can order from their favorite retailers and have that product delivered to their doorstep. We launched Google Shopping back in 2012, and since then we've grown to be live in over 37 countries, and we have over 2 billion individual offers coming from over 500 million, or from over 150,000 advertisers globally selling 500 million products. And certainly we're just getting started here, both in terms of the number of countries that we're launching in, as well as the number of retailers and products that are on the platform. So as I mentioned earlier, it's the image-based ads that you see on Google. So there are certainly text ads. Those are not part of Google Shopping. But the image ads that you see on google.com and everything on google.com/shopping are part of the Google Shopping experience. So with that in mind, why is product data important? I'm sure this isn't a huge surprise, but accurate product data has material impacts on consumer behavior, specifically on whether consumers return products that they bought online, whether they abandon shopping carts, and ultimately whether they buy again from a brand or retailer in the future. All of these factors have a huge impact on sales. So we know that product data is really important to the consumer. But from a Google standpoint, product data is also really important. We've been relying historically on retailers to give us product data for Google Shopping. And so that's things like brand information, variant information, and more. But the problem is when there are multiple retailers selling the same product, we don't know whose information is the most accurate. And so what we've been doing historically is maybe taking some information from retailer A, some information from retailer B, and creating experiences that are inaccurate and brand inconsistent. More than that, we also rely on GTINs to aggregate offers together, and they're essentially the backbone of Google Shopping. So with that in mind, we created Manufacturer Center as a free platform so that brands can submit authoritative product data to help power our commercial shopping results on Google. In return, we provide analytics and tools so that you can understand how your products are performing within Google Shopping across all of the retailers who are selling your products on Google Shopping. And now we're also creating new ad experiences that are designed specifically for manufacturers to drive traffic to retailers. From a participation standpoint, brands can either submit data directly to Manufacturer Center on their own, or work with a third party, such as Feedonomics, to submit data into Manufacturer Center. You're welcome to, the reason that we've integrated with a number of data partners is that we recognize that it's often challenging for brands to submit data on their own, and that they're already working with third parties. And so if we can ease this process, that's something that we've definitely been pursuing. So let me touch a little bit more on why we think it's helpful for manufacturers to participate in Manufacturer Center. And aside from being a free platform, there are a few benefits that I want to walk through in more detail. So first, it's around our manufacturer shopping ad suite, which again are new ad experiences that we're building specifically for manufacturers to drive traffic to retailers. Two, we have some analytics that we're providing right now, but also some new analytics that will be coming shortly. And I'll touch on where we are with all of that in the coming slides. And then three, as we've looked to manufacturers to provide data, we also want to surface that where possible. And I'll touch on where we're also going in the near term in terms of surfacing this data. More about our analytics. And I'll touch on where we are today, which it's admittedly a little granular, but right now we're providing G10 level or UPC level data across all the retailers who are selling your products in aggregate on Google Shopping. So we do need to have at least 5 retailers selling a specific product during a specific week in order to surface analytics for that product during that week. But we provide these analytics for either the last 4 weeks within the Manufacturer Center front end or the last 12 weeks in a downloadable CSV file. It's admittedly a little bit of an eyesore, but we provide this data in a raw format so that you can pivot it however you would like. So for example, G10 123 during a specific week saw 76 clicks across all the retailers who are selling that product on Google Shopping and 8,900 product impressions. You can therefore calculate that product's click-through rate and compare that against the benchmark click-through rate, which is based on the top 5 products in the given category for that product. We also provide the total category impressions, which are based on the Google product category that that product falls into, which we will also highlight to the manufacturer. With that information, you can calculate your product's impression share and compare that again against the benchmark. I'll turn it over to Brian quickly because I think he had something else that he wanted to add here related to Feedonomics.
Yeah, one interesting thing that you can do with this kind of raw data, because it's on a G10 basis, is you can actually take that raw CSV file and join it into your feed, where you'll basically marry all of this very rich data on a per SKU or per G10 level back into your feed, where you can do things like create some interesting custom labels. You may want to even exclude products if it's not meeting some kind of benchmark click-through rate or some kind of product click-through rate that you're expecting. So you can get very granular with your actual feed that you're sending to Google Merchant Center and Google Manufacturer Center using this kind of data.
Great, thanks, Brian. And the one thing I'll note here is that some of the feedback we've received to date is that the analytics we're providing are great, but it's often a lot of information and it's hard to make sense of what to do with it. So to that end, we have some new analytics that we'll be rolling out in the coming months that we think will be a little bit more helpful and are actually designed based off of feedback we're receiving from manufacturers as well as data partners. So to begin, one, we'll offer manufacturers the ability to actually group products together based on product lines, leveraging an attribute called item group ID. So for example, if you're a shoe manufacturer, you may not necessarily be very curious to understand the difference in performance between the size 7 and size 8 version of your shoes, but maybe, or of a specific product line, but maybe you're interested more in one product line you carry versus another. So we'll be able to provide that type of comparison based on the information you provide to Google. Beyond that, we're also going to provide insights into consumer behavior. So what were the top searched queries that resulted in consumers seeing your products on Google Shopping, again, regardless of the retailer who's selling your products. We also want to provide competitive insights. So what competitor products surfaced alongside your products within Google Shopping? And then lastly, some pricing insights. So what was the average clicked on price and what was the average impressed price that consumers saw for your products? And how did that trend over time? So you can identify MSRP gaps. So this is all information that, again, will be coming in the near term. But for right now, we do provide granular G10 level data. Let me now touch on how this data is used to influence your presence across Google. And the most powerful use of this data is a little bit more invisible, but it's all of that data within Manufacturer Center is an additional set of signals that can help our algorithm understand what products are relevant for the consumer based on what they're searching. So for example, let's say a user Bob is searching on Google for phones that are water resistant. Now, the Google Pixel 2 is water resistant, but if the retailers who are selling the Pixel 2 are not indicating that information within their Merchant Center feeds, our algorithm doesn't necessarily know that this is a relevant product for the consumer. However, if Google is providing this information to the Google Manufacturer Center account, we know that, or the algorithm can look at that as one additional signal to determine, is the Pixel 2 relevant for the consumer? The other way that we use this data is in terms of what actually surfaces to consumers. And that's primarily used on google.com/shopping within the product detail pages. So everything you see here from titles, descriptions, images, and more can be influenced by what's in Manufacturer Center. You'll note that I also said influence and not outright control. The reason I say that is that we can't guarantee at this point that data submitted to Manufacturer Center will always surface, because occasionally we do get data that's of poorer quality from manufacturers than what we already have from retailers. And from our perspective, we want to make sure that the consumer experience is the best. And so we may occasionally need to use some retailer information if it's better than what we're getting from manufacturers. That being said, we are looking to find other ways to highlight manufacturer-specific data, especially if we can minimize some of our thresholds in terms of reviewing content, which I'll touch on in a few more slides. But in the near future, we're finding spaces to highlight richer content, such as product comparison tables, rich feature descriptions, or even videos that aren't on YouTube, to begin on google.com/shopping product detail pages, but certainly on google.com and other places.
Anand, just a quick question on the previous one. For this future page, is that going to be things that include HTML snippets and bullet points, or are these actually just images that already have like custom fonts and what looks like some HTML styling?
Yeah, we're definitely exploring this right now. So I think we don't have finalized decisions yet on what content will surface here, but HTML is certainly one of the things that we're looking at.
Awesome, thank you.
So let me turn to how the platform works. So I'll touch on the sign up in a few more slides, but suffice to say that it's a really straightforward process of going to manufacturers.google.com and opening your account. But the next time you log into your account, you'll land on an overview page, which gives you a high-level summary of what's happening in your account. And what I mostly want to call your attention to is this left-hand side navigation menu. The first step after you've opened an account is to register at least one brand that you own or directly license. And this is the Google account, so you can see that we own the Google brand as well as Dropcam, Nest, and Nexus. There's a quick verification process that takes about 24 hours, and it's just to make sure that you are who you say you are, and it's not, for example, Coca-Cola trying to submit data for Pepsi. Once your brand has been verified, you can start submitting products. And you can do this manually within the front end if you really like, but we tend to not recommend that as it can be pretty cumbersome. Or you can submit a feed via tab-separated value Excel files or XML. We also have API capabilities. Or you can work with a third party such as Feedonomics to make this process super straightforward. From a feed specification standpoint, we have 6 required attributes that have to be submitted for any product. That includes a GTIN, a unique identifier, which can be just the GTIN repurposed, a brand name, a product title, an image link, and a description. But beyond that, we have around 30 total optional or recommended fields that can be submitted. And you can submit all this information all at once, or just start with the required attributes and add additional information incrementally over time. Once the information has been submitted, it has the potential to start surfacing immediately. However, up to 4 weeks later, we will continue to do some reviewing of all these attributes at an attribute level and not at a product level. And the review is done partially on a manual basis and partially on an automated basis. So let me provide a little bit more context about how this review process works. So if there are 200 products that are submitted, including 200 titles, 200 GTINs, and 200 descriptions and more, we will review a sample set manually of all of those titles, descriptions, images, and more. And if a certain threshold of those manually reviewed sample set titles, for example, don't meet our quality criteria, we will blanket reject the rest of those product titles without even reviewing them, because we will assume that if the sample set didn't meet our quality guidelines, that the rest of those attributes, or the rest of those titles didn't as well. However, we will surface our insights into what content was not approved by our systems within the diagnostics section of your account. And you'll be able to click in to see some additional details. So for example, within the Google account, it turns out that there are 24 products with non-unique GTINs. Within your account, you can also access analytics. So that's where, again, you can see 4 weeks worth of data on a rolling weekly basis, or download a full report to access 12 weeks worth of data in a CSV file. Lastly, within your account settings, you can control who has access to your account, specifically within the users and contacts. Or if you're working with a data partner, you can add them in within the data partner section. I'll note that right now, Manufacturer Center can only support brands working with one data partner at a time. We recognize this is not reality, and that brands are often working with multiple data partners. That's something we are looking to support by early next year. And what we'll look to the manufacturer to do is basically input within the data partner section the various partners that they're working with, and then let Google know which attributes need to be sourced from which data partner. Currently, if you are planning to work with Feedonomics, we do need email permission from you, the manufacturer, sent to Google as well, acknowledging that you want your data piped into your account via the Feedonomics data partner account. So let me turn to how you get started. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a really straightforward process. At this point, all you have to do is go to manufacturers.google.com, register for your account, and register at least one brand that you own or directly license. After that, you can either start submitting data on your own or add a data partner to your account to help you submit data. In terms of support, we have a very robust and detailed help center, as well as a dedicated support channel to help address any questions that you might have. That help center is available at support.google.com/manufacturers, and it has information, for example, about our feed specifications and how to submit data and our analytics and more. And our email support alias is mfc-help@google.com. And we have, generally speaking, a 1 business day turnaround time for any questions that come through that support alias. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian to walk through a little bit more about the Feedonomics solution.
Thanks, Anand. So you guys have heard some pretty awesome things about Google Manufacturer Center. At a very high level, it gives you the ultimate in control over what actually shows up on Google search results, as well as in the shopping tab. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we as Feedonomics specifically support and how we enable manufacturers and brands to succeed on Google Shopping and Google Manufacturer Center. So at a high level, what we do is we can pull data from anywhere and get products listed anywhere. And of course, it's no mistake that Google is listed front and center in this right-hand image here. That's one of our primary channels that we support. So with that, there are a few things that you need to ensure. Let me make sure that I'm still sharing. Okay. We created a few things that enable you on an ongoing basis to ensure that you can actually monitor how you're doing inside of Google Merchant Center and, of course, Manufacturer Center. So with that, we created Feed Alerts. What Feed Alerts does is it basically checks your Google Merchant Center account twice a day for any errors and immediately notifies our team, or you if you want to know, as well via an email alert. So we can identify any of the common Google Merchant Center errors, some of which you guys already saw in the previous slides, like missing GTINs, automatic item disapprovals, basically these common errors that have been plaguing us since Google Merchant Center has existed. And many of them can be solved in the feed itself. Some of them, of course, require you to solve it through fixing images on your website, for example. So the benefits of this are pretty clear because if you have disapprovals or errors, there are products that you simply can't advertise. And with that, you can, of course, if you're not constantly watching and being vigilant of your merchant center or your manufacturer center, you could basically have your entire account suspended. And of course, that's not a great thing. So what this does is ensures that it's constantly being watched, and should any errors arise, they can be resolved as soon as possible. Another tool that we've created that sort of enables you to have excellent data integrity is FeedGrader. Because as the manufacturer or the brand, you actually get a lot of control over your data. You want to make sure that all the required and even some of the optional attributes are in fact filled in. So what we do with FeedGrader is we look at over 50 of the most common Google Shopping errors, such as description having white space, titles having HTML, duplicate titles across the feed, which is actually a very common problem when you have variants. You might have 10 variant products or 10 children products that have exactly the same title, which of course doesn't let Google easily differentiate between different colors or sizes or other attributes that might fit your products. So we analyze all of this and give you a letter grade. And of course, this is something that we'd be more than happy to audit for you at no additional cost on an ongoing basis, but also just if you want to know what is the quality of your current feed, definitely feel free to reach out for that. And this is a really interesting check that sort of tells you what is the health of your entire feed. So in addition to that, we've also created an interesting product called Feedtelligence. As a non-send, a lot of what Google Shopping is based on relevancy. And you may not have certain words in your title, but you may have them in your description or your product features or some other attribute that you have in your feed that actually may cause a product to surface. When someone does a very, very specific query like phones that are water resistant, of course, you don't have that in your title, but it may be somewhere else in your actual feed itself. So on that note, what we've done is we've actually created a way to marry actual search terms that have converted into your actual product feed itself. And what we do is we basically pull reports out of Google AdWords and Google Analytics via the API and join that into your feed. Once it's in your feed, we run through an n-gram analysis to look for missing words that may not be in your current titles, descriptions, or other attributes. And by looking at all of those, we can actually show you what are those missing words that are in converted search terms, but that are not in your actual product feed, whether it's your title, product type, description, or any attribute you have. And the best part of this is we actually join revenue data in as well. So you can see what is the revenue impact that you're getting that you can potentially improve upon. And then lastly, we also support A/B testing different product attributes to make sure that once you insert these words into places where you anticipate people will search for them, you can basically test the performance benefits. So did this actually have a lift? And we've been running this for quite a few clients now to excellent results. In some cases, we're seeing a 30% lift in return on ad spend simply because the words that people are actually searching for were never in our product data before. But after we do this, we can create rules to dynamically add them in. So it's a really interesting way to ensure that you're always as relevant as possible by including a lot of those descriptive nouns and adjectives that people may actually be searching for. And lastly, I wanted to mention that some of our client success stories, we work with over 25% of the internet retailer top 1,000, and we have a lot of clients who have had excellent results as a result. So definitely feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about Google Manufacturer Center or Google Shopping, or you'd like a free audit of your feed. And with that, we'd love to get into some of the questions that have been asked. So let's see. Let's do this one first. This question is from Craig. How do brands without GTINs participate in Google Manufacturer Center?
Yeah, so brands do need to have GTINs in order to participate. So unfortunately, if you don't have GTINs, that's not something that we can support at this time. We would suggest working with GS1 to obtain GTINs, and then you can certainly participate. But yes, unfortunately, GTINs are a required attribute at this time.
Great, thank you. Here's another one. For brands who also do their own direct-to-consumer retail, are there any direct benefits of using Manufacturer Center for their own retail website?
Yeah, so this is certainly a common question that comes up. So we don't have quantifiable changes that can happen for your direct-to-consumer channel. However, there are, again, new ad opportunities that are opened up by participating. And certainly those ad opportunities are more for your retail channels. I think from a direct-to-consumer standpoint, the benefits of participating in Manufacturer Center are, one, it's another tool to help make sure your products are surfacing more often. And then two, to get further insights into how other retailers who are selling your products, one, to understand what percentage basically of traffic you're seeing for your products versus the total. And certainly if there are search queries that are maybe not triggering you as a retailer, but are triggering your channel partners, it's worth understanding that information, and you can do that again through the new analytics that will be coming.
Awesome, thanks, Anand. One more question that I actually have, I'm sure other people may be wondering this as well. So the stat that I always have in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about the Google Shopping tab, based on a metric I probably read a year and a half ago, is roughly 10% of people click on the Shopping tab. Based on what you're seeing, is that number still accurate? Is it increasing?
So I don't have a metric at this point, but I would say a couple things here. One, again, data from Manufacturer Center is going to influence not just what is on google.com/shopping, but certainly which products surface on google.com. Where the data actually can surface is primarily on google.com/shopping at this point, but we're also looking to integrate it into the product cards that surface on google.com when you're searching for a really specific product. Beyond that, we're certainly looking to make google.com/shopping more of a destination. And we anticipate that the percentage of users that navigate there will certainly increase over time.
Gotcha, it makes perfect sense. It's clear that it's not just important for the shopping tab, it's also going to be really critical for search as well.
Correct.
Here's another question from Lauren. Can a retailer's private label brands be submitted to Google Manufacturer Center?
Yeah, so you're certainly welcome to. There's less benefit for private label goods that are submitted to Manufacturer Center. Again, primarily because you're not going to be able to see analytics, because we need to have at least 5 retailers selling that product. And if it's a private label, presumably there's only one retailer selling that. But we won't stop you, I guess, if you want to.
Awesome. Here's an interesting question. So this is from an agency that manages an education client that has many Google Merchant Center accounts. So the question is, will each one of those Google Merchant Center accounts need to have their own Google Manufacturer Center set up? And is there any way to link the Google Merchant Center with those accounts?
Yeah, so unfortunately at this time, brands who are also have Merchant Center accounts, if they want to participate in Manufacturer Center, do need to have a separate account created. The good news here is that if you have a Merchant Center feed, it's really straightforward to move it over to Manufacturer Center. Essentially, there's a lot of overlap between the two feed specifications. We certainly understand that it's not great to have two separate accounts and two separate feeds. We're working on that, but in the short term, at least, it is fairly straightforward if you do have a Merchant Center feed to migrate that into Manufacturer Center and just submit it in a separate area.
Great, thanks. Here's another question from Thomas. If if we are a digital ad agency that represents a retailer, is it true that our suggestion to use Manufacturer Center would basically result in dialogue between our client and their vendors rather than us being involved directly?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but let me take a stab at it. And if I've not gotten the question correctly or the answer that you're looking for, please feel free to ask again, or we can reach out afterwards. But if you're an agency that's working with a retailer, again, if the retailer is selling these products directly, but they're also manufacturing, they can certainly participate. If they're just a retailer like in my mind, Target or Walmart or Best Buy, they likely wouldn't be participating in Manufacturer Center because, again, they're not necessarily selling a lot of goods that are, so they're not manufacturing goods that are sold through multiple retailers. If you are representing, let's say, like Procter and Gamble and Samsung and others, they are retailers, but they're also working with retail channels. You can have those brands open accounts. The conversations would likely be between, at some point, especially on the advertising side, between the brand and their retail channels that they're working with.
Great. Here's another question from John. Does the reporting in Manufacturer Center break out data per reseller?
Unfortunately, no. This is due to privacy and compliance restrictions that we have. And again, we've certainly heard that this would be really helpful information. And I think where we're looking to provide that type of data is primarily through the advertising experiences that we're building. So for example, with the co-funded shopping ads, you would be able to see advertiser specific performance information. But within Manufacturer Center, the clicks and impressions are not going to be advertiser specific. They will be across all the retailers who are selling a product on Google Shopping in total.
Great. Here's a question from Teresa. When will the ad opportunities be available outside the US? I'm assuming the question's about Google Manufacturer Center and its general availability worldwide.
Yeah, so I'll touch on both Manufacturer Center as well as the advertising opportunities. So Manufacturer Center is live in about 10 markets, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Germany, Spain, France, Japan, India, the Netherlands, the UK, and the US. But from the advertising side, the co-funded shopping ads and the sponsored product ads, those are testing right now in the US. I think we're looking to scale them more broadly beginning next year. Sponsored product ads, though, I believe are actually, they're just pending a couple retailer agreements, but I believe we have launched in Germany and also in Brazil. But again, we're certainly looking to bring this to more markets soon.
Great. Here's another follow-up from Lauren. If we have multiple manufacturers that we have licensed brand rights from, do we have to create multiple Manufacturer Center accounts, or can you do it in one?
Yeah, so licensing is a little bit more tricky. Typically, I think where we're going to with licensed folks who have licenses is that they would have to create a separate account or a different type of account. And essentially, we would rely on the brand owner to indicate that, yes, they do agree that data should be piped in from the licensor's account. If you want to contact me as a follow-up, I'm happy to discuss that in more detail.
Great. Here's a question from Tim. Will retailer shopping ads display the data, product name, description, image from manufacturer centers entered info by the brand?
Yeah, so within the shopping ads that surface on google.com, so like the 6 ads that surface up there, that will continue to come from retailers. So the images, the titles, and more. The information that surfaces on a product card on google.com, so if you search for a really specific product, you're usually going to see that product card, the larger, more robust experience. Within that, we're going to have aspects of that experience piped in from manufacturer center. So like product details and feature description, for example. Within google.com/shopping, that's where we might influence the title and description from what's in manufacturer center.
Great. Here's a question that I think is about the very nature of how GTINs work. Is GS1 only supported, or does the older but exact same standard UPC work?
Yeah, so I believe UPC should work, but again, our help center should have some more information there. So I'd encourage, if you have questions about the requirements around GTIN and what that looks like, please check out our help center at support.google.com/manufacturers. And if you navigate over to the feed spec page, you can click into GTIN and get more information there.
Awesome. Here's a quick question. This is an interesting one. So here it is. It's a long one too. So this is from a company that manufactures a raw product that's used in many industries like furniture and construction and automobiles, and even naval manufacturing. So is Google Manufacturer Center tailored to products that will be targeting retailers, or is it only really, I guess it's asking like who, if you manufacture products, who can buy it? I'll take a stab at this one. So, and Anand, correct me if this is incorrect. Sure. But basically, anyone who is selling their products on a website can do this. Can you actually can you do Google Manufacturer Center if you do not have a website, but you do have a feed of products?
So we do require some information as part of our brand registration process, which includes having a website. I will take a different tack at answering this, and hopefully this helps to address the question or concern. So often we see that brands may be thinking more about, or they may operate in more of a B2B space instead of a B2C space. And that's fine. Google Shopping has not really been broken out between B2B and B2C. Is generally all kind of treated as if every business could also be a consumer. So if there are retailers who are selling your product on Google Shopping, you are certainly welcome to participate in Manufacturer Center. If your product is maybe a component piece of a different product, you probably wouldn't be part of Manufacturer Center at that point because it's not your end product that's being sold by retailers on Google Shopping.
Great. Here's another interesting question, and I was actually curious about this too. So the question is from Hugh. He's asking, I've seen the option to add YouTube videos to Manufacturer Center. How does that work?
Yeah, so currently YouTube videos have the opportunity to surface on google.com/shopping in the image carousel, but we're also exploring ways to highlight that information again on google.com within those product cards. So that's again a one other type of media that we're looking to surface there. But as we look to the future, we're also going to be looking at basically supporting videos that maybe aren't on YouTube. So if they're on other platforms, that's something we want to definitely surface within that richer content experience.
Great. Here's another question from Drew. Can manufacturers only co-fund campaigns with only a single retailer?
Yeah, so the co-funded idea is certainly more targeted to a single product for a specific retailer. But that's also why we have the more scaled approach that we're working on, which is co-bidding, where you can, bid across your retailers who are selling your product.
Great. Um, so here's the next question. Is there an Excel/document that discloses all of the supported fields for products so we as manufacturers can make sure we have as complete as details as possible? I'll take a stab at this one. So Google's help pages actually have the specs for both Google Merchant Center and Manufacturer Center. And in Feedonomics, we actually have a list of fields that are required, recommended, and optional, so that you can always see what should you be doing. And of course, the more you include, usually the better, especially from a relevancy perspective and being as replete as possible. Is that about right, Anand?
Yep, that's correct.
Great. Okay, here's another interesting question, and this one is about MAP pricing. So, does Google have any position on MAP agreements? It seems like Manufacturer Center can reveal if some retailers are providing MAP, but it's designed to prevent brands from monitoring which retailers are using pricing tactics.
Yeah, so this is part of the reason we wanted to start surfacing some pricing insights in the next version of analytics. So generally, our policy is it's between retailers and brands to work out their MAP issues. We don't get involved in the same way that we don't get involved with unauthorized resellers. That being said, we did want to start surfacing average clicked on and average impressed price so that hopefully as a manufacturer, you can start getting understandings of if there are specific products that maybe are seeing large gaps. It's an opportunity to go talk to your retailers who are selling that product to better understand whether or not they're abiding by MAP policies.
Gotcha. So we got some clarification about the question about a product that is sold by container to other manufacturers or wholesalers. So can you use Google Manufacturer Center if you're selling, it seems like not quite to consumers, but to other businesses, like other manufacturers and other large scale wholesalers?
Yeah, I think so. If the retailers who are selling your product are to other retailers, if like basically if that product is being sold on Google Shopping, so if you go to google.com/shopping and search for the product that you're manufacturing, assuming that there are retailers who are selling that product to other businesses, you can certainly participate in Manufacturer Center.
Great. Here's a question about co-bidding. Can a brand only bid on non-brand search terms? So brands are interested, of course, in bidding against competing brands, not so much for increasing bid prices for their own branded searches. So just to say the question again, can a brand only bid on non-brand search terms?
Yeah, so the co-bidding experience is definitely not live yet, and I think this is part of the stuff that's still getting figured out on our side is how we want to support this type of experience. At this time, all of Google Shopping is not keyword based. It's based on bidding on product targets. So, short answer, I don't know at this point. I think we will certainly be exploring how we address branded and non-branded search terms, but in general, again, shopping is not keyword based. It's based on bidding on a product target, and then therefore we understand what's the most relevant information about that product, and based on that information, we figure out what's relevant to show to the consumer.
Great. Thanks so much, Ananda. That's pretty much the list of questions. I'm seeing one more about co-bidding, but I think your answer is remains there. It remains to be seen a little bit.
Yep.
Actually, one more question. Is there a list of all the retailer supported question mark? I'm assuming of all the retailers that are supported. Yeah. Is there a list of all the retailers that are supported for Google Manufacturing?
Uh, so we don't have that list, but basically, if you search for your product on google.com/shopping or on google.com and you see retailers selling it, yeah, that's an indication, I guess, that there's a retailer that is selling your product. I mean, we have, as I mentioned earlier, over 150,000 advertisers globally participating. on Google Shopping, and it certainly includes big and small retailers. So your Walmarts, your Targets, your Costco's, and more, as well as, again, smaller retailers as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Anand, and thanks everybody for joining us. We will be sending a recording of this webinar as follow-up. So look out for that email in the next day or so. And if you have any additional questions, please email me at Brian, B-R-I-A-N, at Feedonomics.com, and I'll be happy to either answer it or if I can't, connect you with Anand. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great
Thanks,
rest
all.
of your day.